It was December 31st, and the Johnson family was preparing for their New Year's Eve celebration. The house was warm and festive, filled with the scent of cinnamon candles and freshly baked cookies. The Christmas tree stood in the corner of the living room, its branches heavy with ornaments and twinkling lights. Beneath it lay an assortment of presents that had already been opened on Christmas morning, except for one. "Mom, is this yours?" 8-year-old Lucy asked, pointing to a small box wrapped in silver paper. It was tucked far beneath the tree, as though someone had placed it there in secret. Her mother, Evelyn, glanced over from the kitchen. "No, sweetie. Maybe it's from your dad." "Not me," her father, Michael, replied, frowning. "Maybe it's for Grandma? She dropped by last night." Evelyn crouched by the tree, pulling the mysterious gift into the light. It was small, no bigger than a shoebox, and wrapped meticulously with a crimson ribbon tied into a perfect bow. A tag dangled from the ribbon, blank except for the words, "For Lucy." "Are you sure you didn't put this here?" Evelyn asked Michael again, her tone sharper now. He shook his head, looking just as puzzled as she was. "Can I open it?" Lucy asked, her excitement overshadowing the strange circumstances. Her parents exchanged uncertain glances. "Let's wait until later," Evelyn said, setting the box on the coffee table. "We need to figure out where it came from first." The rest of the afternoon passed uneventfully. Lucy played with her new toys while Michael set up the TV for the evening's countdown. Evelyn prepared hors d'oeuvres, though her eyes kept drifting back to the silver-wrapped gift on the coffee table. As the sun set and the house filled with the glow of string lights, Lucy grew impatient. "Can I open it now?" she asked again, bouncing on the couch. Michael sighed. "It's probably just a late gift from your grandma. Go ahead." Lucy tore into the wrapping paper with the excitement only a child could muster. Inside the box was a small wooden music box, its surface intricately carved with swirling patterns and tiny stars. A brass key protruded from its side. "It's so pretty!" Lucy exclaimed, winding the key. A hauntingly beautiful melody began to play, a soft, lilting tune that filled the room. "It's unusual," Evelyn said, watching the box with unease. "Are you sure it's safe?" "It's just a music box," Michael replied. "Nothing to worry about." But as Lucy set the music box on the table, Evelyn noticed something strange. The tree lights, which had been twinkling cheerfully all day, began to flicker erratically. The melody from the music box seemed to grow louder, echoing unnaturally in the small living room. "Lucy, stop playing with it," Evelyn said, her voice sharper than she intended. "But I didn't touch it," Lucy said, her eyes wide. The music box continued to play, the key turning on its own. The melody grew darker, the notes discordant, as if something were twisting the song into a warning. Then the lights went out. For a moment, the house was silent, save for the eerie tune of the music box. Evelyn fumbled for her phone, turning on its flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the music box, which was now still. But the lid was open, revealing a tiny figurine of a girl spinning slowly in the center. "She looks like me," Lucy whispered, her voice trembling. Evelyn's stomach tightened as she saw the resemblance. The figurine had the same blonde hair, the same blue dress Lucy had worn that morning. "It's just a coincidence," Michael said, though his voice lacked conviction. "I'll check the breaker." As he left the room, Evelyn pulled Lucy closer. The music box's tune was still faintly audible, as though it were playing just beneath their hearing. "Where did this come from?" Evelyn whispered to herself. She turned the box over, searching for a maker's mark or inscription, but there was nothing. Just smooth wood, worn with age. "Mom," Lucy's voice was small. "The tree." Evelyn turned her flashlight toward the Christmas tree. The ornaments were swaying, as though an unseen breeze had disturbed them. and on the floor beneath the branches were wet footprints, leading away from the tree toward the stairs. Evelyn's blood ran cold. "Michael!" she shouted, but there was no answer. Evelyn clutched Lucy tightly as she called out again, her voice cracking with fear. "Michael!" The wet footprints on the floor gleamed in the flashlight's beam, leading up the stairs and vanishing into the shadows. Evelyn's heart pounded as she considered her options. Should she follow, or should she wait for Michael to return? The music box, still on the coffee table, began to hum softly again. Its lid was closed, but the haunting melody escaped through the cracks, filling the room with its eerie tune. "I don't like this, Mom," Lucy whispered, her voice trembling. Evelyn crouched down to face her daughter, doing her best to mask her own fear. "Stay here. I'm going to check on your dad." "No!" Lucy cried, grabbing her arm. "Don't leave me alone!" Evelyn hesitated, then pulled Lucy closer. "Okay, we'll go together, but you have to stay right by my side." Lucy nodded, clutching her mother's hand tightly as they approached the stairs. Each step creaked beneath their weight, the sound echoing in the oppressive silence. The upstairs hallway was shrouded in darkness, the faint glow of Evelyn's flashlight barely piercing the gloom. "Michael?" Evelyn called out, her voice barely above a whisper. A muffled sound came from the bedroom at the end of the hall. It was rhythmic, almost like humming. Evelyn froze, her grip on Lucy tightening. "Dad?" Lucy called softly. The humming stopped. Evelyn forced herself to move, her legs feeling like lead as she approached the bedroom door. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness spilling into the hallway. She pushed it open slowly, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The room was empty. "Michael!" she called again, louder this time. A loud crash behind her made them both jump. Evelyn spun around, her flashlight illuminating the hallway. The bathroom door had slammed shut. "What's happening?" Lucy whimpered. Evelyn didn't answer. Her instincts screamed at her to leave the house, but she couldn't abandon Michael. She approached the bathroom door, her heart racing, and turned the knob. The room was dark, the air icy cold. Evelyn scanned the space with her flashlight. The mirror above the sink was fogged as though someone had just been there. Written in the condensation were the words, "Turn back." Evelyn's breath caught. She grabbed Lucy's hand and started toward the stairs, her mind racing with thoughts of escape. But as they reached the bottom, the music box began to play again, louder this time. Its melody was distorted, the notes sharp and dissonant. "Make it stop!" Lucy cried, covering her ears. Evelyn snatched the box from the coffee table, her fingers trembling. The figurine inside was spinning wildly, faster than it should have been able to move. As Evelyn slammed the lid shut, the house seemed to shudder, the walls groaning as if in protest. A voice whispered behind her, low and guttural. "You shouldn't have opened it." Evelyn whipped around, but no one was there. She looked at Lucy, who was staring at something across the room, her eyes wide with terror. Standing by the Christmas tree was a figure, tall and impossibly thin, its face obscured by shadows. Its long, bony fingers reached toward the music box in Evelyn's hands. "Run!" Evelyn shouted, pulling Lucy toward the front door. The figure didn't move, but the house seemed to close in around them. The walls darkened, the lights dimmed, and the air grew thick and suffocating. Evelyn yanked at the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. "Please!" she cried, banging on the door. The music box fell silent. For a moment, the house was still. Then a sharp snap echoed through the room, and the figure was gone. Evelyn turned back to Lucy, her heart pounding. "Are you okay?" Lucy nodded shakily, but her eyes remained fixed on the music box. "It's not over, is it?" Evelyn didn't answer. She placed the box back on the coffee table, the sight of it sending a chill down her spine. The door to the basement creaked open. "Michael!" Evelyn cried, rushing to the top of the stairs. But the basement was pitch black. the faint smell of damp earth wafting up. "I'm not going down there," Lucy whispered, clinging to her mother's arm. Evelyn stared into the darkness, her mind racing. Michael was somewhere in this house, and whatever was controlling the music box had taken him. If she didn't act now, she might never see him again. Taking a deep breath, she gripped Lucy's hand tightly. "Stay behind me. We're going to get him back." Together, they descended into the shadows, the basement swallowing them whole. The music box began to play again, its haunting tune echoing from somewhere below. The basement stairs groaned under Evelyn's weight as she and Lucy descended into the darkness. The faint melody of the music box echoed from below, distorted and unnerving. Evelyn's flashlight beam cut through the pitch black, illuminating bare concrete walls and shelves lined with forgotten holiday decorations. The air was damp and heavy, carrying the faint scent of decay. "Mom, I don't like this," Lucy whispered, clinging to her hand. "I don't either," Evelyn replied, her voice trembling. "But we have to find your dad." The basement seemed larger than it should have been. The further they walked, the more the space seemed to stretch, the shadows dancing unnaturally against the walls. In the center of the room, Evelyn's flashlight landed on something that made her breath catch: the Christmas tree. It was identical to the one in their living room, down to the ornaments and the golden star at the top. But this tree was wrong. Its branches were blackened and gnarled, and the ornaments were cracked and stained. Beneath it was the music box, sitting on a mound of damp earth. "It's the same box," Lucy whispered, her eyes wide. "No," Evelyn said, shaking her head. "It can't be." The music box opened on its own, the melody growing louder and more distorted. The figurine inside spun wildly, its movements jerky and unnatural. Evelyn stepped closer, her flashlight trembling in her hand. As she reached for the box, the earth beneath the tree began to shift. A hand shot out of the soil, pale, skeletal, and clawed. Evelyn screamed, stumbling back as more hands emerged, clawing at the ground. One by one, figures began to pull themselves free. Their bodies were thin and twisted, their faces obscured by shadows. Their hollow eyes glowed faintly as they turned toward Evelyn and Lucy. "Run!" Evelyn shouted, grabbing Lucy's arm and pulling her toward the stairs. But the staircase was gone. The basement had transformed into an endless expanse of shadow and dirt. The figures moved closer, their limbs contorting unnaturally as they crawled toward the pair. Evelyn held Lucy behind her, her mind racing for a way out. The music box's melody reached a fever pitch, and the shadows seemed to pulse with its rhythm. Evelyn's gaze fell on the box, its figurine spinning so fast it blurred. "It's the box," she whispered. "It's controlling them." "What do we do?" Lucy cried, tears streaming down her face. Evelyn grabbed the box, the wood cold and unyielding in her hands. The figures froze, their glowing eyes fixed on her. "Stay back!" she shouted, though her voice cracked with fear. The largest figure stepped forward, its bony hand reaching for the box. Its voice was a deep, guttural growl. "Give it back!" "What do you want?" Evelyn demanded. "To remember," the figure rasped. "To exist." Evelyn tightened her grip on the box. "You're trapped here because of this, aren't you?" The figure didn't answer. Its hand hovered closer, the shadows around it writhing. Evelyn's mind raced. If the box was the key to their imprisonment, destroying it might set them free, or unleash something worse. She looked at Lucy, who nodded, her eyes filled with trust despite her terror. With all her strength, Evelyn hurled the box at the base of the tree. It shattered on impact, the melody screeching to a halt. The figures let out an ear-piercing wail, their forms flickering like a dying flame. The tree's blackened branches began to wither, collapsing inward as the figures dissolved into ash. The basement trembled, the walls cracking as the shadows receded. Evelyn shielded Lucy as the room began to collapse. A bright light erupted from the tree, engulfing them both. When Evelyn opened her eyes, she was lying on the living room floor. The Christmas tree stood where it had always been, its lights twinkling cheerfully. Lucy was beside her, shaking her awake. "Mom, are you okay?" Lucy asked, her voice shaky. Evelyn sat up, her heart racing. The house was silent, the oppressive air gone. Michael was lying nearby, groaning as he stirred. "Michael!" Evelyn cried, rushing to his side. He blinked up at her, confused. What happened? Evelyn pulled him into a tight embrace, tears streaming down her face. "You're okay. You're okay." As the family regrouped, Evelyn's eyes drifted to the coffee table. The music box was gone. In its place was a single ornament, a delicate glass angel. She picked it up, turning it over in her hands. At its base was an inscription. "For those who remember." "Is it over?" Lucy asked, her voice small. Evelyn nodded, though a part of her wasn't so sure. She hung the angel on the tree, its light glowing softly. For now, the house was quiet. But as the clock struck midnight and the new year began, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows had simply moved, waiting for their next chance.